Desperate times call for desperate measures.
We must act now to save lives. We must act now to avoid a shutdown or lockdown.
Tonight at 6, Governor Polis ramps up restrictions for counties overrun with coronavirus.
Indoor dining is temporarily closed.
And calls the legislature back to work to rescue Colorado's economy from disaster.
These Coloradans cannot wait another moment, and neither should we.
Plus, with cases exploding and Thanksgiving just around the corner, will grocery stores finally start limiting capacity?
It's obviously broken. It's saying that there's 120 people in here, and there's obviously like 300.
A nursing home is sued following the death of a resident.
We have a woman that was found face down in water.
Aurora moves closer to allowing home pot delivery.
Under COVID with the pandemic, everything has changed a little bit.
And wildlife officers worry of a winter of discontent.
It's just a concern about people getting out into the backcountry who may not have a lot of experience.
Today, Governor Polis delivered a 1-2 punch designed to protect Colorado from the pandemic.
And this evening, we are going 360 on weather. That's going to be enough to curb a virus that has bested us at every turn. Now, part of the governor's plan will take effect Friday when restaurants, businesses, and gyms in the hardest hit counties begin to implement new restrictions.
And we'll have more on that in just a moment. First tonight, Denver7 political reporter Megan Lopez on a special session to provide relief to businesses, homeowners, renters, and more. Megan?
And Shannon, state lawmakers are set to reconvene here at the Colorado State Capitol the second week of January. But the message really today from Governor Polis and from Senate and House leadership was that this cannot wait. They said that they have about $200 million that they weren't expecting to have that they can put to COVID relief to help families and to help businesses that otherwise might not be able to make it through the additional restrictions that we heard the governor talk about today, but also the holidays. After months of wondering will they or won't they, on Tuesday,
I'm calling the legislature into a special session.
Governor Jared Polis announced he's calling state lawmakers back to the Colorado Capitol early with a clear intent in mind.
I'll be asking the General Assembly to take up critical legislation that will help Colorado families and Colorado small businesses survive these challenging winter months ahead.
House and Senate leadership say they have about $200 million to help businesses and families during the pandemic. That money coming from better than projected state revenue from the income tax.
And there is one-time money that we can use to help stimulate the economy and help those families out.
The governor laid out 4 areas he'd like to see the legislature focus on in particular: small business relief, housing and rental assistance for people struggling to make ends meet, support for child care providers to help them stay open, and expanding broadband access for students and educators.
Here's an opportunity for us to do something, and I think if we didn't do anything, it'd be unacceptable for Coloradans.
Some Republicans, like Senate Minority Leader Chris Holbert, say they're glad the governor is including them.
He's calling us back now because he sees immediate need for these 3 or 4 categories, and frankly, we tend to agree with him that the details are where we need to have the discussion.
He'd like to see some of the focus go to helping schools, but also landlords.
They can't evict, and in many cases, they're not collecting rent. And if they go bankrupt, where are those people going to go?
Others, like Representative Patrick Neville, are questioning the timing of it all since they asked for a special session months ago.
It's amazing to me that he didn't call us into session for $1.2 billion that he just spent all on his own. But now he's calling us into session for $200 billion. Now, for $200 million, it just seems like this is just simply a publicity stunt.
And he's questioning the safety for public testimony with COVID numbers being so high. Nevertheless, the legislature will reconvene. Now it's just a matter of when. So something I heard over and over again at that press conference today from the governor and the House and Senate leadership is that the reason they're doing this now is because the federal government isn't doing anything and hasn't been doing anything to offer relief. At the same time, though, they said that really this money is just a short-term solution and they need the federal government to help states like Colorado to be able to weather this pandemic in the long run. We don't quite know yet exactly when that special session is set to start. Anna Shannon.
All right, Megan Lopez tonight. Thank you, Megan. Denver, Arapahoe, and Jefferson counties are among the counties tightening restrictions in the coming days. Gyms will be capped at 10%. Bars will close. Dining at restaurants must take place outside. Restaurants are certainly split on that part. Some feel this is better, certainly, than a full shutdown and a logical step toward bringing down the numbers, but others feel they've just been hung out to dry.
I think with the case numbers going up, it's scary for everyone. I think we've all kind of taken it a little bit more serious, or hopefully we have, to bring those numbers down. And if we need to go to a stay-at-home again, hopefully everyone will take it very serious so that we can get back to whatever level of normal we're going to have.
There is no other industry that has paid the brunt of these restrictions. No other one that I can think of. And I just really think the federal government has failed us. I think state government has failed us. The city has no money. I don't know what the city can do for us.
4,300 cases of the virus were confirmed by the state today. More than 1,500 people are in the hospital, and another 23 people have died.
There were no new restrictions for grocery stores announced today, although some employees would have welcomed them. Denver7's Ivan Rodriguez joins us with their concerns. Ivan?
And good evening. One King Soopers employee tells me she doesn't think management is doing enough to keep them safe, and she's even more worried about the holiday season as more people are expected to walk through the doors.
Everybody's pretty fed up.
For Felicity Evett, who works at the King Soopers, where 2 employees died from COVID-19, she says morale among workers is low.
I was friends with James McKay. I knew Randy. And it's hard to lose those people and then have to come here every day and that people above us not care.
After 2 years of working as a supervisor, she says her hands are tied with being able to implement certain rules we had gotten used to seeing, like lines outside grocery stores to limit capacity and employees sanitizing used carts.
I think the safety of your employees should come first.
As well as unfortunate incidents with customers.
There's a customer that comes here almost every single night. In the beginning of the pandemic, he did not want to wear a mask. He coughed on one of the employees, and within a week, that employee had tested positive for COVID.
She says she was also coughed on. After reporting it to upper management, she says nothing was done and that customer is still allowed in.
Workers continually put themselves and their families at risk to keep the stores running.
For the UFCW Local 7, representing many of the workers, the rise in cases among employees could be reversed if strict guidelines were reinstated, as well as hazard pay.
That directional change, when there's more safety protocols in place by constant cleaning, by having the number of shoppers limited within the facilities, to require the mandatory masks.
But King Soopers Kroger says it is taking precautions by disinfecting the store, providing gloves and face coverings every shift, installing plastic partitions, and limiting store capacity to 50% through in-store technology. For Safeway Albertsons, they say they're taking similar steps. They also say, in part, Colorado has seen a significant increase in positive COVID cases, and we have also seen an increase in associates testing positive.
It's just scary. They could be doing more.
UFCW Local 7 says among members, they've seen a 510% increase in COVID cases between Safeway Albertsons and King Soopers Kroger. As of today, there's also at least 115 active positive cases among employees between both companies. Still, both companies tell me their highest priority is keeping the safety of their customers as well as their employees. Live in Denver, Ivan Rodriguez, Denver7.
All right, Ivan, and I know we've covered a lot of the last 5 minutes, but now we want to hear from you.
Yeah, what do you think? Do you think the governor is doing too much, too little? What do you want to see come out of this special session?
Is your grocery store too crowded for comfort? Let us know all the things. Send us an email, 360@thedenverchannel.com. You can also sound off on Facebook or Twitter. Colorado Congressman Ed Perlmutter has tested positive for COVID-19. Perlmutter says he does not have any symptoms. He intends to isolate in his apartment in Washington. He will work and vote remotely.
The CBI has been called in to investigate the discovery of human remains at 2 sites in Conejos County in the San Luis Valley. We're told there is no apparent connection to Suzanne Morphew, the Maysville woman who disappeared on Mother's Day.
An Elbert County nursing home is being sued for the death of a woman in its care. 7:41 p.m., April 2019, Bonnie Schilling's wheelchair tumbled into a ditch along Highway 24 in Simla. A surveillance camera was the only witness. A stranger found this 74-year-old a few minutes later and called 911. Meanwhile, employees of the Good Samaritan Society nursing home were just realizing that Schilling wasn't in her room.
Everybody was searching for her throughout the building, and then this neighborhood child comes running across the street to say, there's a lady down in the ditch. She was a Medicare benefit resident, meaning she was government assist, but they're billing the government to, basically say, hey, we're going to look out for all these people. And they failed miserably.
Schilling aspirated water from the ditch and died a few hours later. The lawsuit seeks $300,000 in damages. That is a maximum allowed under a law that Schilling's attorney is calling outdated and draconian. Good Samaritan Society did not respond to our request for comment.
A 71-year-old man has died after being robbed in Longmont. The suspects were later seen using the credit cards and bicycle they stole from him. This robbery happened on Thursday near the rec center, and these are some surveillance photos. An autopsy will determine the cause of death.
Well, Aurora is edging closer to allowing marijuana deliveries. The proposal cleared a study session yesterday, now heads to full council, and if it's approved there, deliveries would be allowed between 8 in the morning and 10 at night. To-go sales would be limited to 1 ounce of pot per day. Well, the great outdoors has been especially appealing over the last year.
And now that it's getting colder, they're about to be especially dangerous as well. Here is Denver7 Sloan Dickey.
After a record-breaking summer and fall with visitors to state parks, Colorado officials are preparing for a winter of the same.
It's just a concern about people getting out into the backcountry who may not have a lot of experience.
Summer through September, nearly 15 million people visited state parks, 4 million more than 2019, not to mention the millions using public lands.
It's definitely been a year of unprecedented use in terms of our outdoor spaces this year.
And that trend is expected to continue. REI Outfitters says its backcountry ski and snowboarding sales are up 3 times what they were last year, as the coronavirus and social distancing pushes people to the outdoors.
We want people to get outdoors. We know how important it is right now during the pandemic to have access to those outdoor spaces.
But as winter approaches, it comes with risks.
Avalanches are a big concern in Colorado, and so it's something that you need to take seriously.
Avalanche rescue teams have already been deployed this year.
We have seen some involvement this year. I think we've had 3 people caught in avalanches and then another person that was partially buried in an avalanche.
Ahead of a possibly record-breaking winter with visitors to Colorado's mountains.
It's really time to be thinking about safety and not taxing search and rescue.
Backcountry experts say it's best to play it safe this year. Sloan Dickey, Denver7.
Coming up, why we should worry less about the amount of time our kids spend on their phones.
The special clause in Santa's contract this COVID Christmas.
And we go behind the scenes of Big Sky, your new favorite obsession.
It scared me, and I know what's going to happen.